Good day, everyone. I'm Stephen Suba, and together with me are my group mates, Gabriel Tapales, Eunice Brillantes, and Jenny Dairit. And today we will be talking about civilization and its discontents by Sigmund Freud. So first, before we move on, we will particularly discuss parts 3, 4, and 5, where Freud talks about civilization and also talks about how it relates to the individual. Then the title of the entire book itself is interesting because it encapsulates what the whole idea of the book is about. It's about the tension of the individual and the civilization. While civilization can seem to be a source of relief, of rest, and even fulfillment and enjoyment, what Sigmund Freud tries to demonstrate here is that it can also be a source of tension for the individual, as it tries to inhibit certain desires that can seem to be for the destruction of life, but in reality can be yielded for its protection. And at the same time, the very tools and techniques that are present within civilization end up causing gaps and possibly harms, and that cause the misery of the individual. The backdrop of this book is between World War One and World War Two. This allows us to look at the insight of why Freud might have written this, seeing the horrors of everything that's happening, and at the same time, doing psycho therapy with different people in different backgrounds. And in the early chapters, because we won't be discussing those particular chapters on religion, what we see is Freud's ideas on religion itself, about how it's somewhat childish and it is an illusion that we create because there is nothing more primal for Freud than the child's desire to have that protection of a father, to have that protection of of a higher being, of a higher person. And so what Freud says is that he disagrees with the particular person that he uh, even writes to admire during the early parts of his work, and basically says that it is nothing more than an illusion, and that what religion tries to do is not really to pursue happiness, pero to try to mitigate what the sufferings the civilization is trying to point out. So we now move on to part 3. And in part 3, Freud talks about different ideas. First, the hindrances to happiness. So if the drives, like for example, the drive for the sexual drive and even the drive for aggression, if those are the things that can even lead to certain, for example, happiness and pleasures, there are different hindrances that are part of civilization. And there are namely three: the power of nature, our frail bodies, and the inadequacies of civilization. The first two are rather obvious in that part of us, since we are weak and nature is imposing on us certain realities, it can be a hindrance, it can be a cause of suffering. But the third is less yielded, as we believe our created order relieves and helps us, not something that gives us problems. How do we know this? Freud writes, the claim is that our so-called civilization is largely to blame for our misery, and that we would be much happier if we were to give it up and go back to primitive conditions. Why is this so? Freud gives particular reasons, and the first he gives are two historical events. He says that the triumph of Christianity and its effect on the view of earthly life and the discovery of less developed cultures by voyagers helped shape this understanding. Why? Because of the triumph of Christianity and its effect, there is the saying that Christians that are so heavenly minded that are of no earthly good. Now, what we get from that saying is the idea that with Christianity's emphasis on hope for heaven, what Freud is saying is that it has now diluted the life that is presently lived. And at the same time, people can have this hostile claim. This is an astounding claim, says Freud. This hostile claim can be true because voyagers eventually discovered cultures that are less urbanized, industrialized, that are less civil in one sense, less technology present, yet their needs are met. So that this hostile claim of saying that our civilization is largely to blame for our misery and it would be better to go back makes sense in light of these events. Freud doesn't claim to have a comprehensive understanding, but he names these two events in particular. And at the same time, technological advancement, says Freud, also disappoint us. Even that is not a sufficient condition for happiness. Our advancement also wouldn't be necessary if such technology did not create the gaps that continually made them necessary in the first place. Although there is benefit, for example, in reaching out, this was situated in 1920s to 30s. There is benefit in inventing the telephone, in the seas, in the ships. But Freud points out that the invention of the telephone wouldn't even be necessary if the ships weren't present to take family members away. So that we see technology keeps on advancing because it also creates problem in the long run. Although there is something to be said of the benefits of technology, Freud shows us that it in itself is not sufficient in the pursuit of happiness. It will therefore suffice to reiterate. Now we move on to the definition of civilization. My next group mates will also talk about civilization, but what is civilization as Freud uses it in the context since it's in the title? It will therefore suffice to reiterate that the word civilization designates the whole sum of the achievements and institutions in which our life differs from that of our animal ancestors and which serve two purposes: protecting people from nature and regulating people's relations with one another. There's a sense in which Freud is referring to the whole of our culture, to the entirety of the different items, tools, belief systems, and different social relations that comprises our humanity. And this is how Freud uses it. And he sets a distinction that this is different from primal animals, of which Freud asserts that we came from. So, and it of course has this effect, two purposes that we have. So now we move on to the last part of my segment is that tools and measures. Civilization includes tools and items that are of value in protecting against the power of nature. And the limitations and defects of our organs are overcome by it. Because of technology, what we see is that the power of nature that we mentioned that hindrances our happiness and our frail bodies are overcome over time. The stars that we cannot view are our organs are somehow given prosthetic limbs. That's why Freud calls us prosthetic gods. Because in one sense, our faculties are enlarged, our faculties are increased by the tools that we have created. And at the same time, beauty, cleanliness, order, intellectual pursuits, social relations are factors that make up civilization. There are things that Freud enumerates to show somehow to measure the great culture level of a civilization. And one of the hallmarks of a civilization that has a great culture is that intellectual pursuits in the name of religion, the development, then philosophy and ideas, and at the same time social relations. From communities and agreed upon etiquettes and standard, it becomes a systematized system of law. And these are factors that are helpful. And lastly, in the last part of this chapter, Freud talks about drive sublimation, and it's a feature that makes higher intellectual pursuits possible. Essentially, Freud gives an example of a child, for example, secreting, pooping. So how does this child become trained? Eventually, what we discover, Freud asserts that this child, as it grows up, as this person grows up, eventually learns to redirect the energy and the drives instead of just pooping anywhere. These particular faculties are redirected towards intellectual pursuit. So that civilization has this process of frustrating certain desires and drives to pursue other intellectual pursuits. So that's it for part three. So now we move on to part four.
Next slide. Yan. So for this part, more on ang sinasabi ni Freud dito is on how human form families or like yung realization or kung ano yung nag-push sa kanila for that. And kung paano yun naka-apekto sa pagkakaroon ng civilization. So sinasabi niya na it's more on nung na-realize ng tao na their lives are better kapag nag-work sila. Kaya nagkaroon ng importance yung concept ng pag-work together kasama yung ibang mga tao kaysa makipag-compete sila. So that realization led to the value of having fellow workers or companions. Sinasabi na even before in our early history, humans started forming families like itong mga family members na to, they are the first ones to help each other out. Plus, Freud also asserts that forming families started also because yung desire daw natin for sex is become more regular and palagi nating gusto na we are close to our sexual partners. Sinasabi na yung mga kababaihan daw before, they have that nature of caring for their children. That's why nag-stay sila for a strong and provider type na lalaki since they want to feel secured or protected. Next slide. So, as time passes by, yung sexual feelings daw natin ay nag-iiba rin. Sinabi niya rito na isang example dito is yung smell ng women's menstruation cycle kasi before raw, it affects men's sexual feelings. But since we learn more about our body and their functions, naisip natin na our genitals become more visible and kailangan ng protection. So, nagkaroon na tayo ng ideologies where we feel embarrassed toward things na normal naman talaga sa bodies natin. So, dahil nga raw may ganito, yung effect nun sa mga men is yung attraction na meron sila sa smell ng menstruation before it decrease. And ang nangyari na is they become more attracted visually. And itong shift raw na to sa ideologies yung nag-led to the taboo on menstruation as people began to see it as something na kailangan itago or i-avoid. But sabi ni Freud, itong realizations daw natin about sa bodies natin and their functions, plus sa sexual desires, it's good for the growth ng civilization and ng society na ginagalawan natin. He argued that this transition from finding pleasures in certain bodily functions to feeling repulsed by them is a crucial step in the development of civilization. But he was also saying that our civilization is still lacking in developing. Sinasabi niya rin dito na yung earlier human societies is para talaga siyang isang pamilya, kung saan yung role and power ng father is absolute. Sa book niya na Totem and Taboo, in-explain niya kung paano na yung isang family structure before ay nag-transform into a larger community of people na nag-work together. So, ang nangyari raw is nagrebelde yung mga anak against their father and doon nila na-realize na they are stronger pala when they work together. But na they are stronger when they are united. So, doon din nag-start yung creation of rules and taboos para ma-maintain yung bagong social order. Aside from this, he also said na the foundation of human communal life was built on two things. First is yung fact na they only need to work together dahil sa external pressures like yung expectation na meron sa isang society. And second is yung strong emotional bond or yung relationship between individuals. Naniniwala raw si Freud na yung first biggest achievement ng society was allowing a large number of people to live and work together in communities. He was saying na yung cooperation between people and yung love and pati yung necessity, yung nagiging cause why civilization progresses and why we live harmoniously. Next slide. So, isa pa sa pinoint out dito ni Freud is yung kung paano yung love, especially yung sexual love, plays a big role in our lives and also in civilization. Sinasabi niya na yung sexual love, it brings people intense satisfaction and happiness. So, ang nangyayari, yung idea na to is pwedeng mag-lead sa mga tao na mag-focus lang daw sa sexual relationship and gawin yon as center ng buhay nila. Sinasabi niya na there are risks kapag nagpo-focus tayo sa romantic relationship as it can bring us extreme pain and suffering lalo na kapag hindi daw nag-go yung mga bagay in a way na expected natin or in accordance sa plans natin. But he also claimed that despite daw the dangers and warnings of making love as the most important thing, many people still find it very attractive and they still continue to prioritize it throughout their lives. Sabi niya, if we really wanted the love to work, he asserts that there's need to be a significant changes in how love works. Sinasabi niya na ang isang tao, mas nagiging masaya raw sila by valuing the act of loving itself more than being loved in return. And ang ginagawa nila is they spread love to everyone rather than solely mag-focus sa isang tao and it protects them from the pain of losing a specific love interest. More importantly, nare-redirect daw nila yung love from sexual desires and they are finding fulfillment in affection without the need for physical intimacy. Pero sa dulo ng passage, sinabi niya rin na he is objecting with the idea na everyone deserves love equally as there are people din daw na hindi naman worthy of love. So next slide. And yung last slide for this part. So dito, ang sinasabi niya, yung love daw that forms family ay nag-work in two ways. First is yung direct sexual satisfaction within the family. Second is yung inhibited love or the more restrained love between family members like parents and children or children and siblings. Sinasabi niya na all love was fully sensual and it always involved physical desire. However, as time passes, nagde-develop yung affectionate love and it's more on about na sa caring and connection without the need for physical intimacy. So itong dalawa na to, the love extended beyond the families and it create bonds with others like friendship na papasok nga dun sa inhibited love. But since nagde-develop nga ang isang society, yung idea lang ng love, it sometimes clash with what the society considers important or beneficial. nagkakaroon ng restriction sa isang society kung paano mo ba dapat i-express yung love, sino ba yung dapat mong mahalin, and ano ba yung boundaries para masabi natin na the love we give is still acceptable. Sinasabi ni Freud na yung mga societal constraint na to, it can limit our personal freedom and also the expression of love. Aside from this, pinakita niya na rin na merong natural tension between sa close bonds within the family and sa larger community na ginagalawan nila. He said na civilization aims to unite people into larger groups, but kadalasan yung families, they resist it kasi they prefer their own tight connection. Freud emphasized na the stronger the family ties, the harder it can be for individuals to engage fully with the wider world since para silang nakakulong sa families nila. However, this conflict is necessary and part siya ng human development. Kasi habang bata daw tayo, we are living in a way na very connected tayo sa families natin and doon nag-i-start yung pagpo-form and pagpapahalaga natin sa relationship. But of course, as we grow older, sabi niya, kailangan daw natin na kahit papano mag-detach sa family natin to integrate into society. Ang transition daw na makaka-help sa isang individual is yung puberty when we reach that peak. So lastly, ang sinasabi ni Freud sa dulo ng chapter 4 is on how civilization put limits on sexual behaviors. Like minention niya na from early stages, societies already prohibit incestuous relationship which he sees as a significant limitation pagdating sa sexual freedom ng isang tao. And habang nagpo-progress ang isang society, various taboos and laws has been created for both men and women. Isa pa sa ina-argue niya rito is yung kahit beneficial yung mga to, it is unjust for society to ignore or deny obvious sexual diversity and yung differences na meron ng bawat tao. Like, for example, dito, yung binigay niya, is yung forcing people to only have heterosexual relationship and pagle-label sa iba into something bad or pagbibigay ng unjust treatment just because they are not obeying on what the society thinks is normal. He was suggesting na only if society is more inclusive, people could express their sexuality without being marginalized. So that's the end of this part.
Next slide. For chapter 5, we'll talk about civilization, love, and aggressiveness. In the first bullet, psychoanalysis work shows that people who have sexual frustrations project their frustrations through neuroticism. Furthermore, these symptoms give neurotic pain, and to cope, it releases through stress, anxiety, or depression, either suffering from your own or suffering from your relationship with other people. If an individual is neurotic, there's an undeniable fact that there's a hindrance to interaction in civilization. Yet, whether you're neurotic or not, civilization demands other sacrifices besides sexual satisfaction. The antithesis between civilization and sexuality is from the circumstance that sexual love is relationship between two individuals. Here it is stating that there's a difference between civilization and sexual love. Civilization depends on relationship between a considerable number of individuals, while a form of sexuality is a love relationship at its height. There is no room left for any interest in the environment. They are a pair of lovers who are sufficient to themselves and do not even need the child they have in common to make them happy. However, with this kind of love, the concept of eros is being betrayed, since eros, for Sigmund Freud, strives to create connections and unite individuals into harmonious wholes, whether in the context of intimate relationships or broader social bonds within civilization. Yet, the reality is, civilization is not for two people. The reality is, people are not libidinally satisfied with themselves, and upon so, common interest shouldn't be the only one that can connect people in civilization. Hence, it introduces the idea that civilization should bind the members of the community through a libidinal way. Civilization fosters not only common interests but also emotions. However, for these aims of civilization to be fulfilled, there is a necessary restriction upon sexual life. This restriction implies that individuals must sacrifice some aspects of their sexual desires or behaviors to maintain social cohesion and adhere to societal norms. Next slide. One of these I One of these ideal demand is thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. This statement indicates that civilization seeks to foster connections between individuals, including through libidinal bonds, to strengthen the communal bonds. The idea of this ideal demand from Christianity. However, for Sigmund Freud, he says that this is crazy. Like, why should we do it? What good will we do it to us? But above all, how shall we achieve it? How can it be possible? For Sigmund Freud, love is something that is valuable to us that we ought not to throw away without reflection. Upon loving someone, he must deserve it. He deserves it if he so like us in important ways that I can love myself in him, and he deserves it if he is so much more perfect than myself that I can love the idea of my own self in him. And lastly, the idea of love for him is if he is my friend's son or daughter, since the pain my friend will feel if any harm came to him, I should also share the same burden with him. However, Sigmund Freud also acknowledged this ideal demand. He compared it to an insect, an earthworm, or a grass snake, an inhabitant being on the earth, the kind of love that has a level. Furthermore, Sigmund Freud stated loving neighbor in a different POV. If the neighbor is the one who is being asked, surely the neighbor will have the same idea as him, and for sure he has different insights about it. Like Sigmund Freud stated, if the neighbor will do him any good in harming another neighbor or me, he has no hesitation in injuring me, nor does he ask himself whether the amount of advantage he gains bears any proportion to the extent of the harm he does to me. The neighbor need not even obtain an advantage if he can satisfy any sort of desire by it. He thinks nothing of insulting me, slandering me, and showing his superiority. And the more he secure he feels, the more helpless I am. The more certainty can expect him to behave like this. It will be better if the commandment told people to love their neighbors in a way that reflects how the neighbors behave. Next slide. Here's a second commandment which seems to me even more incomprehensible and arouses still stronger opposition. Love thy enemies. The next ideal demand is what Sigmund Freud really finds idiotic and absurd. As there's a civilization that aims to bind, even in the face of conflict or harm, individuals should strive to show kindness, forgiveness, and understanding towards others. However, however, how can you love someone who harms you just like the neighbor who harmed you, leading it to an enemy? How can you love someone who did you not good? Freud, Freud argues should be loaded or competed against. This is the natural model of human society, and to argue that enemies ought to be loved is to ignore completely the real antagonism between some groups of humans. As he stated, love entering the idea of love thy enemies, Sigmund Freud opened an element of truth behind all this. It is unnatural for humans to love their neighbors and enemies as themselves. It is instead more natural for humans to be aggressive toward most people. Their neighbor is for them not only a potential helper or sexual subject, but also someone who tempts them to satisfy their aggressiveness toward him.
In continuation for the chapter 5, so despite civilization's effort, it hasn't been entirely successful in curbing human aggression. So while laws aim to prevent extreme violence, they often fail to address subtler forms of aggression. As we grow older, we learn to temper our expectations of others and recognize the challenges caused by human hostility. However, it's essential to understand that opposition and competition are natural and necessary aspects of human activity. So it's only when they are misused that they lead to enmity. Next slide. Communists believe that getting rid of private property will solve many problems. So they think people are naturally good, but owning things make them mean to each other. So they say if everyone shared everything, there would be no reason for fights. But this idea ignores some important things about human nature. It is said even if we got rid of private property, people will still find reason to be cruel to each other. Aggression isn't just by owning stuff, it's deep part of who we are. It's been around since ancient times, even before property existed much. It's there from the very start, long before we understand ownership. Even if we change how we own things, like by allowing everyone to love freely without families, aggression would be still there. It's part of us that won't go away easily, no matter what changes we make in society. Next slide. Men find it hard to give up aggression as if we need it. And it is said by Freud that having someone to be aggressive towards other actually helps groups stick together. So for example, in the text, neighboring groups often picks on each other. So like the Spanish and the Portuguese or the English and the Scottish. So this rivalry called the narcissism of minor differences, which helps build unity with each group. Next slide. So civilization asks people to give up a lot, not just our sexuality, but also in terms of aggression. That is why it's hard for people to be truly happy in civilized societies. Primitive society had more freedom but less security. So in those early societies, only a few enjoyed freedom while the rest were oppressed. Today, even primitive society have restriction on their own instincts, though they may be different from those in modern civilizations. Next slide. Now, when we criticize our civilization for not making us happy and for allowing unnecessary suffering, we're not against civilization itself. It is our right to point out its flaws and work towards making improvement. However, we should also realize that some problems might not be solvable through reforms alone. One such issue is the psychological poverty of groups, where a society's cohesion relies too much on people identifying with each other rather than on strong leadership. So this can be especially risky when leaders don't play their proper role. That's all for our report. Thank you for listening.